This is the November 12th regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education. I will now take public comment on item 1B, acknowledgement of outgoing board members. So if you would like to speak, please make sure that you sign up using the QR code on that little table. Thank you. So I am going to call up, first three will be Alex Kobayashi, Kevin Fong with Assemblymember Berman, and Ken Dauber. So do we have Alex Kobayashi? We do. Great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Kobayashi, and I'm here on behalf of Senator Becker. I'm here with Kevin Long from Assemblymember Mark Berman's office, and we're just here to thank and congratulate the three outgoing members of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board, Trustee DeBrienza, Lala Mirak, and Mr. Collins, for their years of service. All of you have served during very difficult times for the school district, and we appreciate the effort and thought that all of you have put in. I know Mr. Collins, with his expertise in finances, was instrumental in bringing some of the budget issues from the last decade into a line, and Ms. DeBrienza, as a fellow math student student in college, didn't actually use it now, but I appreciate your work in the classroom, and if you continue to do that now, I appreciate that even more. And Ms. Mirak, having your expertise as a graduate of the system and bringing that knowledge back in with both personal and from your kids has been so valuable these last 4 years. And on behalf of Senator Becker, just want to say thank you to each of you for your years of service and wish you the best moving forward.
Hi there, Kevin Fong on behalf of Assemblymember Mark Berman. It's always nice when I go after Alex because he does such a wonderful job. I always love to defer to my colleague in the upper house, but on behalf of Assemblymember Berman, I wanted to say thank you all for your service. I think you leave the district better than when you found it, and as elected officials, I think that's all we can really ask from you. And you did it at such a difficult time, especially during the pandemic, and ushering the district, the students and the families through something where there was no playbook, and so you were kind of, as they say, building the plane as we were going, and so immense challenge, but you did it with steadfast leadership, and the students benefited immensely. So on behalf of Assemblymember, we have certain resolutions we would like to present to you all.
This way?
Come on. Are we supposed to go somewhere and?
I don't know how.
Okay. Are we supposed to stand up? We're supposed to like, yeah.
Stand up for photos.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, do we have Ken Dauber in the room? Or is he on Zoom? Okay, Ken Dauber on Zoom. You,
I'm on Zoom. You hear me? That's the obligatory.
Just 2 minutes, Ken.
That really cuts deeply. First of all, thank you for this Zoom opportunity. Don't ever let anybody. I'm so sorry to be out of town for your last meeting, but I'm very grateful to have the chance to be here. There's a lot to say about each of you, but I just want to limit myself to 3 points. First, and this point has already been made, you all, I think, passed the basic test of a trustee. Students are better off now than when you started. You navigated COVID, which was terrible for students in the district, but much better than many districts because of your focus on getting students back to school. You helped to create clarity of goals and accountability for the district around excellence for every student. For example, in insisting on better reading outcomes and focusing attention on and resources on absenteeism. And you made real progress in supporting student well-being with more resources for counseling in school, and in particular, the change to later start times, which is huge for our high school students. Second, you supported high performance in the superintendent and senior district staff by setting clear goals and making policy decisions and then evaluating the results. This is a big deal. I've seen boards in the past that introduced more chaos than clarity. And you've mostly done the opposite. And consequently, the board has evolved into what I think is a strongly positive force in the district. And third, you've put students first in your work. This is a really odd role for an elected official where your constituents are not actually the people who elected you, but the students. And you, I think, have recognized that it's good to listen to input from parents and community members, but at the end of the day, the job is to make decisions on behalf of the young people in our schools who don't get to vote. And I think you've done a great job of holding their needs at the center of the board's focus. And I really hope that that tradition continues with boards in the future. Speaking personally, I couldn't have asked for better colleagues in my own time on the school board. And I want to join with others in really thanking you for service to our students. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now we have Samaya, Sarah, and Terry Godfrey.
Hello. On behalf of the Palo Alto Council of PTAs, I want to thank you all for your years of service, dedication to improving the education, health, and well-being of all the children in the community. And just personally, thank you all for always being there to listen and have conversation and just being somebody that we can go to. So thank you all so much. And this is just some flowers from PTAC. Do I bring them to you? Anyway, I want to thank Todd, Jennifer, Jesse for this. Basically, I think I just want to ditto what Ken said. And I've actually been reflecting a lot because I have a kid who's the class of 2020, which means he entered Pali 8 years ago. And what I can definitively say for my current 9th grader entering Pali this year, the school is a definitively better place for learning than it was when my 22-year-old was going through 8 years ago. That is unambiguously clear. And the board, I think, has a lot to do with that. And I want to thank you for your discipline, just in sort of understanding your role, actually being a voice for the voiceless, the folks who never knew that they could actually come here, for navigating us through COVID. Because a lot of folks don't even understand that, which is, I think, the advocacy that you guys have really helped to elevate, that they should be asking for more, and they don't. And it pains me, and I want to thank you for that.
I love being on this side. I'm Terry Godfrey, and Mr. Zoom was on the board when I was on the board. I remember when we joined together, and whenever I spoke behind him, he would say things like, I'm leaving here because my hair is on fire, and things like that. And I never could quite say that because I'm not bald like him. However, frequently, we had very similar messages. And much like Sarah just said, the kinds of student-centered decisions that y'all have been making have been great. The kind of chaos that you've left behind, jumped into with pandemic and then came back out of is admirable and tough. And those of us in the community appreciate it, even if you don't feel that we appreciate it, because I know there are times when lots of folks have opinions and lots of folks have ways that they would approach things that eventually you just got to study all the options and do the thing. So I appreciate that y'all are willing to do the thing, and the three of you who are leaving will leave legacies of having done the thing with students at the center of those decisions, which is really important. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your care for students and families and staff. And congratulations on terms well served.
And next we have Amanda Boyce, Nicole Chuang, and Ginny No.
Hi, good evening. So I tried to get down to 2 minutes and I just couldn't do it, as I've known the 3 outgoing board members for 8 years plus. I ended up spending time this weekend writing about each of you, so I'm just going to share some highlights. So Jennifer, the first time I heard of you was through Karen and Lisa, who were teachers at Addison that you knew from Maloney. And I had not paid much attention to board members or elections before they brought your name up, but they piqued my curiosity as they described you as someone who would make a significant impact on student outcomes due to your background in teaching and knowledge about a variety of educationally related topics. 8 years later, they were right. I have been inspired by your wisdom, your energy, and your focus, and always putting students first. Todd, we grew close when I assumed the role as Director of Special Education. It started with a text after one of the CAC meetings asking if I wanted to talk about some of the current issues, and then we got into our rhythm of talking either before or after every CAC meeting, or sometimes both. I will always be grateful for your tough questions and the support and belief you had in our special education department when we had to make some hard decisions about consolidating some of the centers. Jesse, you were my friend long before you were a board member, and I still have memories of our second grade daughters playing in your backyard, and it's hard to believe they're now in 12th grade. I admired you back then as a grounded mother who embraced the strengths and challenges of your 4 kids, and I knew you were wise and thoughtful, but I could have never imagined the profound impact you would have on me as a board member. When the stakes were high, specifically in regards to equity issues, you speak with passion and conviction. You never shied away from the hard realities of our district, and you forced us to pay attention. Thank you for not only being a great friend, but inspiring me to do all the hard work to ensure that all students feel valued and seen in Palo Alto. I'll miss the 3 of you tremendously, and I want to thank you for modeling the importance of working as a team with our superintendent on common goals so that each of us as educators in PAUSD can focus on the important issues in our district that have been stagnant for too long. Thank you.
On a personal note, I want to thank Todd and Jennifer and Jesse, because when a young parent or a parent with young kids moved to the district and reached out to each one of you individually, you took the time to answer my questions, and you've been that way ever since. And thanks to Todd's challenge, I have not only watched in person the last 2.5 years of more board meetings, but I watched back 2 years on Zoom. And so I've seen you, and I've seen you set really tough, challenging goals, and I've seen you drive for progress over perfection. And I know when others would have paused when things got tough or uncomfortable or challenging, you pushed forward to do what was right for our students. And so on a personal level, I thank you for our district, for the students that I work with every day in middle school and high school as the executive director of Dreamcatchers, and as the co-president of the Chinese Parents Club. I want to thank you for your service.
The past 8 years, this school board has made it very clear that they don't care about what the students, parents, or teachers have to say about PAUSD. You have been dismissive, lied, bullied, misled, shut us out, pushed personal agendas, and hurt us when you were voted in to be our voices. The people have spoken, and it is time for change. They voted for big change. And I hope the 3 incoming members will listen to students, teachers, and parents and find out what is actually happening in PAUSD. And at these board meetings, we will finally hear the truth.
Okay. We have Nana and Uzma.
I love you guys. Okay. I wrote a few things down because otherwise I might cry. I might cry anyways. I want to start by saying that Jennifer and I have been taking a democracy class at Stanford, and last night we were there, and there was a elected official present, and he said to us that the most important elected official in our lives, those who will impact our lives the most, more than any other elected officials, are our school board members. And I think Jennifer and I both shed a tear. This definitely rings true to me and my family. There's no doubt that Jennifer and Jesse and Shaunik and this superintendent have made the biggest impact on our family during the last 8 years here. My kids were 4th and 8th grade when I first met Jennifer when she was running for school board. She said all the right things, but I was pretty disillusioned. My Black biracial kids at the time had both had several racist incidents in our schools, a lot of microaggressions. And the few other Black families I knew were all talking about exit plans of how to get out of the district. I also was pretty terrified of the suicide clusters and the pressure cooker academic environment that my oldest had experienced at our middle school, of just toxic competitiveness. But Jennifer proved to not just be all talk, and she and later Shaunik and Jesse and our superintendent and Todd championed initiatives to close the achievement gap, enhance mental health resources, and foster inclusivity in our district. Your leadership and effective working relationship with the staff and teachers and Dr. Austin have been instrumental in establishing the role of our assistant superintendent for equity and for expanding mental health support. Your advocacy for our most underserved students has inspired system-wide changes that have improved outcomes for all of our students. Your dedication to advancing diverse, inclusive, and responsive educational environments leave a lasting legacy on this district. You have made our most marginalized students and families feel heard, seen, championed, and prioritized. And you've moved the needle like no other in your position. So from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of my entire family, thank you.
I see Uzma and Christina Schmidt.
Hey, Jennifer and Jesse, I don't even remember the first time I met you guys. Sorry, I'm feeling emotional right now. But I do remember that you two were part of the 21-Day Equity Challenge several years ago. And you put together a video for that and promoted it. And it stands out to me, not only as a representation of what you've done for our schools and our kids, but you stand, thank you. You stand for what our school district needs to do to make our society better for all people. Oh, Jesse, I do remember when I met you. We spoke on the phone during COVID, and you were so nice, and you listened to me, and you talked to me, and you heard what I had to say about my younger one and how he was struggling with distance learning. Yeah, just knowing how you guys have carried yourself with such empathy and integrity. We're gonna miss you all. It's gonna leave a really big hole. Jennifer, you did some really courageous things for our community in the last year. You took chances and you listened to us and you stood by us in many ways and you made us feel seen. So thank you both so much.
And the final speaker I see is Christina Schmidt.
Thank you. It's been a long 8 years. It has been a kind of journey that probably none of you thought about when you first put your signs out there. And I will say that Todd, Jennifer, I remember when you were first running, and then of course Jesse, and I have been so pleased to be able to work across the table from all three of you on so many issues that have changed the lives of our students. My youngest son is a graduate of 2024, and he tells me things like, I think I know more because I went to PAUSD schools and things like that. And it's amazing to hear how proud he is to have graduated from these schools. And I will say that each of you and all the work that you have done has made that possible. From the 8 years going back when you stood up to change names of schools, again, controversy going in. And then delaning our middle school math programs, again, challenging going in. Let's remember the pandemic, let's not remember the pandemic, but all of you, with all of your colleagues and our superintendent, worked overnight, all the time, 24/7, to get our students back into school safely, to make sure you heard our staff, and to make sure you did not forget our most vulnerable students at risk, the students in special ed who came back first. And I will say that you were able to do things that other districts could not. And throughout all of it, you were able to pass resolutions going back to Black Lives Matter and things that happened with George Floyd, all the way through the horrendous circumstances of October 7th. And you did it with honor, always. And you did it thinking diligently and losing lots of sleep over it, I'm sure. All I can say is I want to thank you because I know you're leaving this district in a much better condition. And there's a lot of challenges here that you've brought up, and all of your colleagues and those who follow you will be stepping into some very high expectations and big steps to continue this work, including all of the equity work, the SWIFT work, and I know that goes on, and all of your colleagues will continue to push that forward. But I, for one, am incredibly grateful for everything that you have done and shown all throughout your tenure. So again, from my heart, from my family, from my kid who's off at college going, yes, and feeling good about having graduated these schools, thank you.
Are there any board member comments? Okay. Mr. Tarath.
I'm going to move here so I can see Todd as well, and I'm going to use first names. It is often sort of an unfortunate truth for elected folks that we are evaluated on what's happening now, right? And that's as it should be. But in a tenure of 1 or 2 terms, 4 and 8 years, there was a lot that happens, and as it turns out, very few families, very few kids who were here when Todd and Jennifer ran are here now, right? The 4th graders are graduated. Most students have turned over. And so people don't see going back 8 years and the way things have been, they see the way it is now. And that's fine, and we should always be trying to be better than we are now, but this is a good moment to reflect on the kinds of changes that Todd and Jennifer and Jesse have brought to this district. In this election cycle, all the candidates have had a great luxury of being able to discuss substantive pedagogical issues. It's amazing. 8 years ago, we had different problems. 8 years ago, when Todd and Jennifer first ran, the district was a very different district than it is now. And Ken spoke a little to this as well. He had only been on the board for 2 years then, and he at the time had come in to change some of those things, as did Terry Godfrey. But when Jennifer and Todd ran, there were financial mishaps to the tunes of millions of dollars. The district had a real fiscal accountability problem, errors that could have been avoided, money that was not being spent on kids and programs because mistakes had been made. Again, millions of dollars of mistakes. The specter of a structural deficit, the kind that is unheard of right now. We folks talk about our reserves. That's not what we were talking about 8 years ago. We were talking about how are we going to pay for X, Y, and Z because of things that had happened. We were looking at, really huge sexual harassment issues, huge Title IX gaps, a complete failure to comply. We were looking at a board that was quite divisive, a board that was, as compared to now, not nearly as effective as governing because of the divisiveness, a board that passed a resolution to push back against the Federal Office of Civil Rights, who was coming in to investigate sexual harassment in our district. We were a very different district back then. When you talk about transparency now, we talk about community wanting to be more involved in decision making. When they talked about transparency back then, it was, you shouldn't be going into closed session to talk about these things because these are open session things. The way that issues were framed were very different because what we had as a district were real structural governance holes. And it is a luxury to be able to have an election where we're really only talking about issues that matter to students and families. Because if you don't fix the governance holes, the foundational issues, you're never going to be able to fix the things that matter to the students on a day-to-day basis. And that is entirely what Todd and Jennifer have done, and Ken and Terry. But Jennifer and Todd both ran on those structural issues. They came into a board at a time that was really the sort of nadir of the district. And 4 years later, we had what the newspaper called the strongest board in decades. And that's because over 4 years, they hired Dr. Austin. We completely eliminated the amount of administrative turnover there was at the district level with a strong governing team. And all of that was under the watch of Jennifer and Todd. And then COVID hit. And during that time, Jesse got involved. There are always issues to be fixed. And one of those was how the district had communicated and dealt with the health issues and reopening. And Jesse was fired up. She was really fired up. I remember an email from Jesse before she was on the board. She was really fired up. And so Jesse ran, and she joined, and she came right in, and with a real eye towards governance, just as the board had begun to really get its feet under it after, again, decades of not even being on the same page, not even being in the same book. And we are just so much in a better place than we were 8-10 years ago. It's sort of unfathomable, and it's a shame that most people who come to board meetings now will never really realize the depth of how bad we were, how many holes we were. I mean, and so the legacy that they have, the legacy that they're leaving behind, is a district that functions exceedingly well for our students, that has a huge amount of reserves, money for our programs, governs efficiently, governs effectively, has stability, and that's a legacy that it's really ours to give away. You know, the new board coming on, and me and Shauna, our job is to make sure that we're not slipping back. You know, small measurable gains and progress on where we have gaps is great, but if we start backsliding on the foundational governance progress that's been made, then we really haven't done anything. So by any measurable, by any reasonable measure of whether or not a board member has been successful, these 3 board members have been successful beyond measure. On a personal note, I have learned so much from you 3. And when I ran, I didn't know anything. I mean, nobody knows anything when they run, but I really didn't know anything. I mean, I was like, 28 years old, just out of law school. I wasn't a parent yet. I had ideas like everybody does, and I learned a whole lot about governing and being an effective leader. Jennifer, your passion and just the way that you balance these roles and these experiences of being a teacher with running a district that at times is at odds with the teachers union, with engaging in groups that, there are as many interests as there are people in our district, and the way that you, as president, twice engaged with those interests and managed to carry us forward, all while maintaining this passion and just care for our students I learned a lot about just being a good human and a great leader from Jennifer. Todd, I learned a ton about how to approach governance through an organizational lens. I didn't know anything about that when I came on the board, and Todd knew everything about that. And just sitting in property committee meetings with you, in closed session, in open session, listening to how you evaluated the issues and the things that you spotted that I didn't were so valuable in just figuring out how I should be approaching these issues. And it's made me a better leader. It's made me a better person. Your fastidiousness, your attention to detail on issues of budget. I have learned so much. And Jesse, Jesse's as much of a kindred spirit on the board as I've ever had. And it's been a real joy to serve with you for the last 4 years. And it's a damn shame that you didn't run again. And I will never forgive you for that. But Jesse's ability to find, Jesse really gets into the details. And it's really amazing. Because I thought I had an eye for detail, so Jessie really picks it out, and then she frames it up in the big picture context, and then brings it back to why it matters to students in their day. The thing that is so true about the three of you is you just care. I mean, you didn't run for any reason other than you care, and there is no higher compliment or anything I could say about that. I mean, you have been excellent board members, excellent leaders through turbulent times, and you've just been great, great people. And your legacy in this district is not going to be forgotten. It's not going to be overshadowed because you have been, and I echo the Palo Alto Weekly, part of the strongest board in decades. You've changed the way that we govern in this school district for the better. So, boy, yeah, this is a very, very bittersweet day. And it's, what you folks have heard about, at least my perspective on these three is it's a challenge for our new board members to live up to that, to understand the legacy and the history of this, and to know that you will be evaluated over the next 8 years. You'll feel like you're evaluated on the day-to-day issues, but you'll really be evaluated on the year-to-year, the 4 to 8 year issues. And you have all passed with flying colors.
And I want to thank all three of you for your years of service. And closing out before we get some cake in celebration, this is for you, and this is for you. This is for you. Yes. Oh, and other board member comments, but then I'll close out later. Okay.
Listen, we've been sitting here a long time,
got it,
and I know that people want to have cake and, take a break. And Shaunak really mentioned all of the high, low points, depending on how you want to frame them, of the past 8 years. But I just really want to I wanted to thank my kids who just walked out the door. They lasted 40 minutes, but that was good enough. And my husband, thank you for the many, many, many late nights, fewer late nights in recent years than there used to be. And I want to thank Dr. Austin and your administration and all of the site administrators and every teacher and staff member in this district. Because when I think back to 8 years ago, when we were, as Shaunak mentioned, fighting with the Federal Office of Civil Rights, we did not have a handle on the budget. We have been through 3 superintendents during my tenure. We went through a global pandemic. There's been a lot. And when I look at where we are now, and when I look at the stability of this district, and when I think back to the times that Dr. Austin, you and I have sat and talked, and I have said some of the things I said about equity and about the kids that we're not serving in our district. And from the first time I said it, you were interested in remedying it and making it better and addressing it. And you and I didn't know how. You and I alone were like, I don't know. But you have surrounded yourself with a team of people who are dedicated to figuring it out. And you also identified many, many employees in this district who always cared about that and who always wanted to do something about that. And either were doing something in their own classroom about it or couldn't figure out how to do it in a systematized way. And between you and your cabinet and the site administrators and our teachers and all of our staff members, we have moved the needle in a number of really important ways that you will recall, and others that have been on the board for a long time will recall. I would sit up here and be moved to tears, being like, but we have to do something. And you'd say, what do you want us to do? And I'd say, I don't know, I just know it's something. And you have all figured it out. And we have a SWIFT plan, and we have promise goals that we are making progress on every year. And I cannot thank our entire staff, every employee and student in this district, and my colleagues on the board for the hard work of moving that work forward. And whenever you make good progress, there's always pushback, and that's okay. Because I think we had no senior staff turnover, principal turnover over the past year or two. People want to work in this district. People see us making progress. And I credit you at the top for that. And our site leaders for making each site a place where people want to work. So it was longer than I even wanted, but when I think back to 8 years ago, we are, yes, a very different place now than we were, and thanks to everyone who has been a part of that. I appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you too. I want to say, Mr. Collins, we are kindred spirits in many ways, one of which was our desire to cancel this celebration tonight. So I did my best. I moved it to 4:30. But thank you for being my thought partner on many issues, particularly the money stuff. I have appreciated you so much. And Jennifer, everything I have to say to you, you know, so I'm not going to say it. But you are my ride or die, and we've got a lot more riding to do. So this is not the end. And what I really want to do is say thank you to Dr. Austin and your staff. You know, every time I said something at a board meeting that I knew I was going to get a lot of pushback for, I would get phone calls from principals, from directors, from assistant superintendents. I would get phone calls and texts saying, thank you. Thank you for saying that. It needs to be said. We've got your back. And it means so much as a board. We can do anything as a board if we know that the people who were doing it, that we're doing it because staff is behind us. And that's our job sometimes, is to take the political fallout that we know is coming. In fact, I think that's my major job, is to sort of stand in front and say, we got this. Yeah. But it's still really hard. And it really is appreciated to get those phone calls of thanks. Because when you've got multiple principals calling you and saying, yes, thank you, that's right, you're like, all right, okay, we're doing something right. So I would just ask that you pass on my thank you. And Dr. Austin, thank you, because those same principals and staff said to me in personal conversations, and I know to my colleagues, that they feel like they can do their job because you have their back. And that's a really, they're not gonna say that in public because they've got a lot of parents coming into their office and they've got a lot of people they have to answer to. So there's a lot that we do because we're hearing from people that are not gonna stand up in this boardroom and say it, whether it's the parents that Sarah spoke about, or whether it's the principals and the staff and the teachers who are trying to fight the good fight and feeling like they just get beat up for it. So I've done my best to give voice to those voices, and I went into this knowing I was gonna have 4 years, so I gave it my all. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here, despite the fact that I asked you not to be.
On behalf of Mr. Collins, just finishing up here real quick, I want to thank each of your families. You don't get to just be a board member. Your whole family is on the school board for whatever amount of time that you're on there. And you share with them whatever you want to share with them. But I see what's written to you, and I see what was written during COVID times and some other times too, and it's really kind of gross. And the fact that you have been able to get through that, separate it out, put it behind you, and just keep doing the good work speaks so much, but it doesn't mean that it's not without an impact on you or your families. And I really appreciate all three of you. During these times, people forget that people are people too. Collectively, we've lost parents, meaning us have lost parents, and had high points and low points with our own families and things that happened, and this work doesn't make that easier, makes it harder. But I'll end with this quickly. We'll have private conversations later, but I really appreciate everything you guys have done, but more importantly, who you are. I think that's infinitely more important than what we've accomplished here as a group, and some of you guys have been here for a long time. 8 years is a long time. You know, I had a board potential candidate, ended up not running earlier, said, I was in, but I thought it was 2 years. I was like, no, it's 4, but it'll feel like 8. And if you do 8, it's gonna feel like 28. I really appreciate everything you guys have done. But again, we'll have our conversations later. But Vicki, we do have 3 more bags. Yeah, these aren't huge. And then we're gonna go to cake. I promised Elias this would be it. All right, you guys can open those up whenever you want. It's no big deal, it's something fun. But I can just tell you, the staff here loves you guys, and we're gonna miss you because, like you said, we were able to do work. And the last thing I will say about my rubber stamp board is I wish, yeah, I read, is that is some of the dumbest stuff I read. I'm just gonna say that right now, because if everyone saw how much work went into rubber stamping, and if we could have recorded, yeah, if we could record it, if I could have recorded, I don't know, 20% of the conversations I had with, I don't want to pick anyone out, Jennifer, you would have thought, are you kidding me? But when you respect someone enough to fight with them to their face and still be okay, that means something. And I have that relationship with all three of you, and I really appreciate that. We can continue to fight after you're off the board, it's fine. You can still call me. Mr. Dauber calls me every once in a while. But I want you to know that, and I'm joking and not joking about the the rubber stamp tag. There was no rubber stamp. This group worked hard. They read everything. They listened to people. They read every single email. They rolled up their sleeves and just worked their tails off. And at the end of the day, yeah, we usually did get to a 5-0. That should not be confused with a rubber stamp. There was nothing rubber stamp about this group. You guys worked super hard and advocated for all the right things. Mr. Collins, I'll just tell you one thing that's in your card. You started on a quest about reading just not being good enough, and you're changing the state of California. You know, it's bigger than here even. And each of you, I can go right down the row, has done things that are going to outlast your time in the seat, which is really important. So thank you all.
And so now we will recess for cake. say it out loud. Okay, our recess has now. Okay, teacher voice is here. Our recess has now ended. We have 3 board members here. I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just keeping to the time. Yeah, okay. You know that. Yeah. I feel like I'm just not trying to be rude. Okay, welcome again. This is the November 12th regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education. Do we have any comments on closed session items? Okay. Then with that, the board will now recess into closed session to discuss public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957, Superintendent of Schools, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, agency designated representative, Superintendent of Schools, Deputy Superintendent, Chief Business Officer, PAEA, CSEA, PAMA, and contracted positions, and employee discipline dismissal release leaves pursuant to Government Code 54957B1. We will reconvene at approximately 6:30. The board met in closed session and took no reportable action. So we will start with the agenda order. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
So moved.
Real quickly, can I make one request? Sorry, I have to pull this up real quickly. Staff would like to pull one item. Would like to pull action items, so number 6B, for the voluntary one-time employment separation incentive for classified management, certificated management, supervisory confidential employees. And I don't want anything read into that. We would just like to make some adjustments, and it just makes more sense to bring it back in December.
You said 6B.
6B.
Okay, I move we adopt the agenda as ordered, but with the removal of 6B.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote on the motion. Student board member preferential vote?
Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Agenda order is approved. So we will start with student board members' report. And I want to acknowledge we have new student board member here present for the first time from Palo Alto Middle College High School, Ash Balasubramaniam. And yay! And with that, student board members report.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing amazing this evening. I did a brief introduction last meeting, but my name is Aishwarya Balasubramaniam, but feel free to call me Ash. Since this is the first student report for PAMC and school has been in session for 3 months now, I will go over past events that have happened so far this year. So starting off with the beginning of the school year in August, we had a field trip to the Los Altos Museum where we learned about the history and the community that we are learning in. In the same month, we had author Dan Garblick present to the school about his career path and struggles along the way with mental health, which was very empowering for a lot of students, including myself. We also had a career workshop led by Miss Casey and a YCS fair to learn about potential community service opportunities. In September, we had another field trip to Hidden Villa, which was an amazing experience to learn about the wildlife in Los Altos Hills. In early October, there was a Foothill Club Fair Day that all students on campus were able to attend, including PAMC students, which was a good opportunity to interact with Foothill's community members. Also in October, juniors took their PSAT at their home schools, Pali or Gunn. More recently, many students experienced their first round of college midterms in courses that included these exams. Fortunately, Buffalo Period has been very helpful for students to check in with their advisors about college courses, so this helped them feel well prepared for midterms. Lastly, winter quarter is coming up for Foothill courses, so students are working on getting dual enrollment forms done and preparing for registration that opens November 20th. That is all I have for today.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great day. So a little bit of an update on what's going on at Pali. So some ASB activities that have happened this month include Spirit Week, and it was a lot of fun where we dressed up, such as Generations, class theme, and salad dressing, and hosted lunch and after school rallies with game, and it was just a great show of student spirit. All grades did such a good job, and in the end, senior got first place with 31,800 points. Juniors got second place with 23,500 points, and surprisingly, sophomore and freshmen were actually tied for third with 21,200 points. So it was really fun, and I'm kind of sad that that was my last Spirit Week. We also had our Halloween event where we did trick-or-treating and people dressed up. Seniors also hosted a Chipotle fundraiser to help raise money and plan events for the senior class. The freshmen are also going to host a ramen social next week. With the fall sports season ending, there's a lot of teams that made it to different various competitions and tournaments. So girl varsity volleyball are heading into North Cal State D1 and made CCS semifinals and also won their league championship. Girl varsity water polo won their league championship for the first time in 18 years and were 5th overall in the open division for CCS. Cross country got 3rd in their league championship. Girls golf got 3rd in their league, and football qualified for D3 for CCS. So congratulations to all of the sports team. And some other news about other Pali organization. Pali Theater is putting on Our Town this weekend, and Fairy Arts did a glass sale and is planning to do one during the winter too. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Yunso, and I'm here for the report for Gun. Starting off with homecoming with the theme of California Dreamin'. All grades participated in this annual celebration with a plethora of school-wide games and events to attend. And shout out to student government for your dedication in hosting this spirit-packed week. In the following weeks, SEC also hosted the Dia de los Muertos event as well as the Halloween celebration. For an update on athletics, cross country, football, boys water polo are competing at CCS in the coming weeks. And special shout out to gun football for being undefeated this season and qualifying for CCS for the first time since 1971. For some events to look forward to in the next few weeks, Dr. Stratton will be hosting an evidence-based grading informational webinar for parents and students. So if you'd like to attend, that will be happening next Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. SEC is also planning to host their annual Harvest Feast with PTAC, donating to Second Harvest of Silicon Valley with all proceeds, and pieing a pair of teachers or students to celebrate each milestone made in fundraising. And lastly but not least, I will host the first Titan Town Hall of the year in the 11th of December. So I'd like to thank all the board members and district officials whom we have contacted who are generous to share their time with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we have the superintendent report.
Sounds like they're coming to close our meeting outside. Couple things, just thinking back, it was, I don't know, my second or third board meeting, and we canceled a gun high school football game because they didn't have enough players. You guys remember that? Coming here from a place that was a big athletic powerhouse, I was freaking out that day that we're gonna have to make that announcement, and I came in and was like, yeah, well, we don't have enough players. But look at us now, 10-0, that's quite a feat. Congratulations, coaching staff and everyone involved over there. That's a big deal. It's a lot of fun. As far as hoaxes, this idea, and you hear it sometimes called swatting, when people are calling in hoaxes to school districts or different places, but today it was school districts. Unbelievably disruptive. Police department does what they're supposed to do, which is to react like it's real. School district has to act like it's real, even if very, very quickly we knew it wasn't. There's still steps that you have to take, and then our public information officer has to get information together that's accurate, that we can send out, trying to strike a balance. But the reality is, when we go into lockdown, I knew from 2 parents who sent me texts before I knew from the school, because they beat me by 30 seconds. They'd already got the information from a kid, and it's on you. We can't keep up with that. That's not possible. Our job is to make sure we're safe first. But I did put into our listserv today a question to the other superintendents, who else is experiencing something? And it came up, no, 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 no. And I was like, that's interesting, because I'd heard it was widespread. And then came in the, yes, that's what I've been dealing with. Yes, that's what I was doing. Yes, so you start to see the yeses. It's a really serious problem. I don't know how our country wraps their arms around it, but we have to figure something out. It puts people in dangerous situations. Anytime you have adrenaline flowing and people coming in and thinking that you've got a potentially dangerous situation, the odds of something bad happening go up, period. But I'd like to thank our staffs and everyone who was involved, and we were able to clear it pretty quickly and get back, but it's a hard one. And the next thing you do, you send out something saying this is a national hoax, and then there are questions you just can't answer. How do we know? How do we know this wasn't real? Did we check this and that? And it's the same situation everyone's having to deal with. I just want everyone to know it does raise tension, but we try to treat it seriously. And once it's an acknowledged hoax, to try to communicate that and get students back in. But I'd like to thank everyone who was part of that effort. That's all I have for my report tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we will go to staff reports, Palo Alto Middle College High School update. So we will start with a presentation.
I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Che, but just before I do, I want to continue to just go back a very short period of time. And Dr. Che walked to my office one day and said, I think we've got an opportunity up at Foothill to do something different. And I said, oh, cool, let's talk about what we could do something different. And the next thing I know, we're opening a 3rd high school. That was pretty different, Dr. Che. But I had the opportunity just recently to go up there and hear from some students. And there are some things that are just working. And I'm going to go back in time. It started with selection of staff. Every staff member, and we have most, if not all of them here, looks like everybody and someone brought a friend, you know. They wanted to go. They raised their hand and competed to go, and it shows. And the other thing I've seen and heard while being up there is they're different, but they have a shared vision, and that shared vision is bigger and more important than their individual differences. And that's also true of our students. when you go up there and you see the students, they talk about what's the profile of a student in our middle college program. They're students that want to be here. They want to choose that path for a variety of different reasons, and they feel supported. That's it. Past that, the kids are so different up there, and they have different motivations, different reasons they're there, but it was so clear that that has become the exact small community that people try to create, and these guys are doing it, and appreciate all of you. So thank you. Dr. Che?
Thank you, Dr. Austin. In August this year, PAUSD launched the Palo Alto Middle College High School as its third high school on Foothill campus, where students take both high school and college courses simultaneously. The school aims to provide a different learning environment compared to traditional high school by providing a small learning community, flexible scheduling, and access to courses and resources at Foothill. The middle college model is built upon a belief that by changing the environment, students who may not have fit in well or may even have struggled in a traditional setting are given opportunity to thrive. We appreciate everyone who supported this initiative, including our Board of Education, leadership, teachers, staff, as well as families. We are very grateful for our partnership with Foothill, who has provided us with wonderful support and facilities to launch our new school without monetary exchange. Because our students are also their students in the middle college model, it has been an incredible journey to partner with them to support our students together. Finally, I'd like to thank our founding teachers and staff who are all here, who believed in this mission and have been pouring their hearts and soul into building something very special and unique for our students. Without further ado, I will now turn it over to our Palo Alto Middle College High School staff to share some update from this year. And the presentation will end with Principal Ms. Garrison sharing next year's plan and projection. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Francisco Lacayo. I teach U.S. History and Government at PAMC. I'm here to tell you about the school's details. So our students, they are either part of the AM cohort or PM cohort. And during their block of time, they take English, history, social science, and math or elective class. And we also have a Buffalo period where students can use that time in many ways. Their Foothill courses are taken outside of that cohort time, and those classes are meeting the A through G requirements so they can graduate high school. And now I turn it over to Stephen.
Hello, I'm Stephen Shirley. I'm the math teacher at PAMC. In terms of academic planning and course enrollment, students participate in an academic planning process with a counselor before enrolling in college courses. This process includes meeting with counselors to discuss personal goals, post-secondary education plans, and career interests. Students also attend PAMC workshops on college and career exploration, completing surveys to aid in creating a structured four-year education plan. This all ensures a high level of support for each student to complete high school and A through G requirements.
Hi, my name's Molly Loomis. I'm the admin assistant at PAMC. So I'm going to talk about some of our student supports and some of the engaging school activities that we have at PAMC. We offer academic counseling services, case management for special education. We have wellness services through PAMC as well as through Foothill College. There's a quiet study room we call the Student Activity Center. There's a PAUSD bus to and from Foothill College twice daily to service both of our cohorts. We offer PAUSD nutrition services to Foothill campus, and there's access to many Foothill services with the counselors, and there's also access to our students to participate in extracurriculars at Gun and Pally, including sports or clubs.
Hi, my name is Tatiana Martinez, and I'm the education specialist at Palo Alto Middle College. So I'm here to share some of our fall 2024 reflections and grows. So year one has been a learning year for us, and some of the challenges include navigating special education at the college level. We're navigating two different worlds. We have the IDEA versus ADA. It's been a learning curve for staff and students alike. Supporting basic college skill development, meaning time management, using college resources and navigating those resources, monitoring college course progress. Also balancing the rigor between your high school classes and the college level courses. Additionally, academic articulation with Foothill College to ensure students are prepared for college success.
Hello, my name is Emily Garrison. I am the principal of Palo Alto Middle College High School, and it is my honor to be with you today. I also want to say thank you to some of our students I see in the audience. Appreciate them being here this evening as well. So when we look ahead, we are getting ready to expand to all 4 grade levels to be aligned with other state and national middle college high schools. We are kind of outlining this expansion in our WASC process, which will be ongoing this year for our first accreditation cycle. We also are really thinking about those 9th graders and how that transition will look from middle school to make sure that they're properly supported as they start not only in our high school, but also with their college coursework at Foothill. We are in the process right now of recruitment season. We are accepting students to start in January, 10th and 11th graders. So that is reaching out to different communities. We have weekend tours, Wednesday tours. We are visiting all 3 of our middle schools to talk with 8th graders. So we're really trying to spread the word that PAMC is an option for all of our students. We're also reaching out to area private schools. I actually had the pleasure of visiting Girls Middle recently and kind of talking to their students as well. I wanted to mention briefly our projections. So you can see here that starting next year, like I mentioned, we will be open for grades 9 through 12. We hope to have 1 cohort in grades 9, 10, and 11. And based on our numbers from this year and the growth that I think we will have, I do think we'll have 2 full cohorts for our seniors next year. Looking ahead to year 4, which would be 27-28, we do anticipate around 200 students having 2 cohorts in each grade level. I also wanted to mention that as part of our WASC work, we have been taking student data, qualitative data, and asking students about their experience, and I just wanted to highlight a few things. So some students mentioned their favorite parts of middle college are the flexible schedule and the small class sizes. They feel that it's a supportive, inclusive community that really highlights and supports individualized learning. They are comfortable with the campus environment, which is absolutely beautiful, and really appreciate our fantastic, amazing teachers. And we also wanted to get from students ideas about ways that we can improve. So some of the students really highlighted our need for further advertising and kind of helping get the word out again about our school, who we are, clarifying our fundamentals, and then also increasing the amount of our Buffalo period, which is our advisory period, that support period that we use during the day. And with that, I thank you again for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me check if we have any public comment. We do. Mr. Stephen Davis.
Good evening. Take 2. Good evening. I think there's some clarifications that need to be made relative to special education in middle college. The formal education protections for college are covered under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Both 504 and ADA apply to both college and high school and elsewhere, of course. IDEA is the only law that is limited to particular education window. Hopefully that will change and be opened up to be college at some point. The report description talks about the Disability Resource Center for Foothill. Presumably, middle college students are receiving IEP services delivered by and under the supervision of the district. If not, this would seem to be problematic for a high school program, as colleges do not support IEPs. I'm sure some of this is just language and learning curve, and I look forward to the program because I suggested my daughter go up for the tour, and I have not been hearing about anything else since. If she has a shot, she's going to be in your freshman class. And I look forward to not hearing every day about the catalog at Foothill at some point. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any comments from the board? Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the report, and thank you for all the work you do every day. As some of you know, I went for a brief visit last month and ended up staying more than 2 hours because it's a great place to be, and it's wonderful to see how engaged all the students are. And how they've really kind of made it their own. So thank you for, every staff member there has taken a leap from our main campuses here to like, okay, let's go see. We don't know what this is going to be. We don't know who's going to be leading it, the works. And you all jumped in and seemed to really be creating something special. So thank you for that. One thing that I'm just thinking of when I looked at how you see it growing, I know one of the conversations we've had a lot, and one that you even mentioned in your update last week, is that a lot of times students aren't sure if a comprehensive high school is right for them, and some want to try it, and some don't even want to try it. But I would imagine that you'll probably have some interest halfway through 9th grade of students saying, this isn't really for me. So I wonder if it just makes sense to keep that cohort 25, knowing that you're going to have some applications at the end of freshman year for kids that want to join for sophomore year. I'd hate for students to have no opportunity because they didn't start out high school in middle college. You know what I mean? It's just something to think about going forward. But I look forward to watching it grow. And you never know, if I send my little one, maybe he's going to be there too. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have, Mr. Drop?
Thank you. I was lucky enough to be there with some of my colleagues at the ribbon cutting, and I got to meet, I think, all of you, and I see some students in the audience that I got to meet as well. And I remember us talking about, what's it going to be like to develop the character and the culture of this new school that we don't even know what it is yet. And even in Ms. Balasubramaniam's update, we heard a little bit about what that character has developed into. And I think that staff and teachers, you have really the primary role in sort of catalyzing the process. And of course, students have the complementary role in that. So I really enjoyed the update. I like looking at the enrollment projections. It is, this is growing. And more and more, we've heard interest from, folks in the audience, from board members. We know that this is a phenomenal program. I'm looking ahead in the next 2 years. What are we going to be hearing in terms of, now that we have increased enrollment, how are we going to need to increase staffing? Are our busing, frequency going to have to increase? What are the metrics of how many students are actually using the buses and how many need it? All early days right now, but as we get through, I'm really looking forward to seeing those kinds of updates the next time we see you here. But thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other board member comments? Yes.
I just want to say thank you to Principal Garrison for meeting me last week and showing me around the campus. I wasn't able to make the ribbon cutting ceremony, so I appreciated the time. And I really appreciate our conversation and my conversations with a few of our incredible teachers who are there. There's a unity of mission among the adults at Middle College that is truly extraordinary. And honestly, it's soul nourishing to witness it. I've spent a lot of energy and political capital in my 4 years as a board member trying to move our district towards recognizing at an organizational level that alongside the many students who thrive in our schools, there is a large subset of students who don't. And I'm not talking right now about students who are struggling academically, although certainly we have many of those. I'm talking about students who are struggling emotionally, and a struggle that for many of them is actually masked by academic success. And recognizing this organizationally, to me, means so much more than investing in wellness supports, although I am very grateful for those investments. But it really means acknowledging that the experience of these students is just as valid and accurate a measure of our success as a school district as is the experience of their peers. And it means, to me, listening to them and believing them when they tell us, which they do all the time in every possible way. Surveys, town halls, meetings with guidance counselors and therapists, conversations with trusted adults. They tell us constantly that for many students, something just isn't right about Pally and Gunn. I stand firmly in the camp that believes that just because kids are resilient and they endure and they figure out how to gut through it, doesn't mean that they should have to. I think we should aim higher than that as a school district and as a community. But this debate about how or whether we should improve the culture and reduce the pressure on students in our comprehensive high schools is perennial in Palo Alto, and it's going to continue to rage on. And meanwhile, the idea about having another option besides Pally and Gunn has been talked about for at least a decade. We even have a line item in our general fund reserves for a new school. And we're finally seeing this idea come to fruition with Palo Alto Middle College. And, you know, the campus really feels like a third high school. It's alternative in the very best sense of the word, right? Not lesser than or high school light. In fact, in many ways, it's actually the exact opposite of high school light. But it just feels completely different. And I just really want to thank Dr. Austin and Dr. Che for your leadership, and Principal Garrison and the whole Palo Alto Middle College teaching team for your commitment to this vision. Because the vision and the investment of financial and human resources towards achieving that vision, that's organizational recognition. That these students matter and that we measure our success as a school district by their success, and that we value them and we believe them and we're willing to do big things to make sure that they receive the education that they deserve. So that's my thank you. And I have one note on the note of the education that they deserve. One thing that Principal Garrison and I talked about was how middle college students can currently participate in after-school activities at Pally and Gunn, like athletics, and they can audition and participate in theater productions. And Foothill offers a lot of art classes and journalism options, but music is kind of a gap because there isn't a lot through Foothill, and orchestra, choir, and that stuff. Those are classes at Pally and Gunn that are during our daily bell schedule, so they're not accessible to middle college kids. And so one thing I would love for staff to just consider moving forward as we are expanding enrollment and opening up to 9th graders and 12th graders is whether we can do something creative with music. Maybe offer an 8th period option. It doesn't have to be only for middle college kids, but if we offered it in 8th period, it would be outside the regular bell schedule, and then it would be accessible to middle college kids. So just as we continue to look for ways to really make this the high school that kids deserve, that's just my one thought for moving forward. So thank you all again so much. I am so grateful to all of you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments? Student?
I had a quick question for Principal Garrison. Board Member Dorup touched on this really briefly, but looking into the next couple of years, if student enrollment requests would exceed student capacity, which seems to be set at 200, how would PAMC adapt to that scenario?
Thank you so much for that question. I think that there are often problems that are happy problems, problems that I would be very excited to deal with, and that would be one of them. So it obviously would involve partnership with Foothill as our most important collaborators in that process, and then we would have to figure out what that looks like. There are different kinds of middle colleges across the state of California. There are some middle college high schools that have about 200 students. There are other middle college high schools that have many, many hundreds of students. So I think anything is possible. We just want to make sure that we take the time to do things in the right way.
Thank you. Any other student board member comments or questions? Okay, I have a few. So first, thank you, Dr. Austin. Thank you, Ms. Che, for spearheading Palo Alto Middle College. And thank you to teachers for embracing this change. As a former teacher, I know even just changing, like if I'm teaching junior lit versus sophomore lit was a very big change. Changing campuses, changing courses, culture, creating a new school is huge. And so I want to thank each and every one of you, and I want to thank the students who are trusting the teachers and trusting the staff in this new school. And I also want to thank you for, after a long day of teaching, for being here tonight to present. And thank you, Ms. Gerritsen, for leading the way with Palo Alto Middle College High School. So I had a couple questions after seeing the presentation, which hopefully someone can answer. The enrollment projections, I was curious, how were they made? Can anyone answer how the enrollment projections were made?
based on student interest. We don't know yet. It's
Okay.
just projection. So
Okay, just
we're
real,
just
okay.
anticipating. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so in the longer attachment, it states that the Foothill College Disability Resource Center does not typically approve certain accommodations dissimilar to PAUSD services. So I want to make sure I'm understanding. Are those accommodations that are not being offered, is that in regards to the Foothill courses? Or are those accommodations not being offered in the courses taught by PAUSD teachers as part of middle college, high school?
Thank you for that question. Those would be accommodations that would not be used at the Foothill class level, but
Thank you.
not at PAMC.
Okay. Another question I had brings me back into the teacher mindset is when is our next WASC visit and accreditation?
We will have our initial WASC accreditation visit in March.
Oh, okay.
First one.
Gotta get ready.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then my last question was just looking at the bus stops, because the community might be interested in knowing, where are the bus stops for middle college, high school?
So our bus runs twice daily. It picks up in front of Gunn High School. It starts at Pally, picks up over near the PAC at Pally, near the athletic complex, picks up in front of Gunn, drops off at Foothill, and then when it comes back at Gunn, it uses the same city bus stop that public bus uses, and then it again drops off at PAC.
Okay, thank you so much. Those were all of my questions. Thank you. Thank you. And now we will move on to item B, support programs for new teachers update.
All right. One of the things when we go out on the job fair and recruiting efforts that we tell our prospective applicants and our teaching workforce is that not only will you be joining the best teachers and staff, but you also have the best resources and support. And so tonight, Dr. Kelly Bickle is here to share some information about those resources that we have, as well as she's going to share a little bit about the pathways that are available to those who are pursuing their teaching credential, because there's been some changes over time, and she's going to provide a quick update on all that.
Good evening, and I'm joined by Ms. Tarn Wilson, who is the lead mentor for our induction program. So in Palo Alto, we have a long history of providing support to all of our new teachers, whether they're new to the profession or they're just new to Palo Alto but experienced, and then also to our veteran teachers. We're going to focus today on teachers that are early in their career and the support programs that we provide to them. So I'm going to start with a little bit about credentialing in California. So California has a two-tier credential system. Once a person has earned their bachelor's degree, they complete a 5th year of study to get their preliminary credential, and then they are credentialed to begin teaching. In their first 2 years of teaching, they participate in an induction program, and Tarn will talk a little bit more about the induction program in just a minute, and we have an accredited program here within our district. There are alternative pathways to getting a credential. We have teachers teaching on an intern credential, which means that they are fully teaching for us full-time on contract and then completing their credential at night or on the weekends. And then we also have teachers that are on their way to getting a credential, but they're teaching on a permit, an emergency permit, for a variety of reasons. So last year we did some research on teacher credentialing in California and the situations that teachers were coming to us, to our district, and what sorts of supports they needed. And this was based in part on knowing our teachers, knowing what they came in terms of their credentialing and their background, their experience, and also on some new data that has come out from the state in recent years that looks at different categories of teacher credentialing. What percentage of our teachers are fully credentialed, what % are interns, some different categories. And one thing that we noticed was that we did have a higher percentage of teachers that were on their way to earning the credential, but weren't quite there yet. And we really wanted to make sure that every teacher was supported and that they had some consistent pathway to becoming a clear credential teacher, that we're supporting them to learn and to grow. So the top part of this chart here outlines the requirements in the top for teachers in various phases of the credentialing journey, from before they get their credential, what they need to be able to enter a credential program or to be able to teach on a permit. The credential preparation column has the requirements, a broad overview of what teachers need to complete to earn their credential. The preliminary credential holder is what they would need to do in their first 2 years of teaching to become a clear credentialed teacher in California. The bottom is a continuum of the supports that we offer here within our district, and the boxes in blue are what we're going to focus on tonight.
So we have a very robust induction program here in our district. So we provide job-embedded professional learning for newly credentialed teachers. So that means for teachers who've just received their credential here in Palo Alto, they have a trained mentor who is also an experienced teacher who works with them for 2 years, meeting with them once a week, doing just-in-time support, as well as working on action plans that help in their growth towards the California teaching standards. We've also invited Mountain View Los Altos and Los Gatos Saratoga High School to join us in our program. Many of our teachers are exactly what you would expect, which are teachers who are straight out of their credentialing programs coming to us, ready to work with the teachers here. We also have many teachers who come to us from untraditional ways. We have teachers who come from overseas, as well as teachers who come from other states who have teaching experience. So they still need to, in order to get their California credential, work with a mentor, and we personalize our instruction to their more advanced skills. And I'm just really proud to work at a district that really invests so much time, attention, and resources into making sure you have outstanding teachers so that you have student success.
So when we started to think about expanding support beyond teachers in induction, we did use some of what we know really works in the induction program. The induction program is accredited by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, so there's a set of standards and guidelines that we follow to help teachers grow their skills in against the California standards for the teaching profession. So this year we expanded beyond induction to include really systematic supports for teachers on intern credentials and on permits. That support has always existed in a more organic format, and this year we have just really built out the system to make sure that every teacher has a mentor that comes to their classroom every week to help them with whatever problem of practice or whatever support they might need. So it's individualized and coherent, with the goal really of making sure that we are growing the kinds of teachers that we want to have in our district to teach our students. The other piece is that a lot of teachers in credential programs have a lot on their plate in terms of their coursework, the assessments they need to complete, so we can provide this advisement to them as well to help them along their way. And so just a couple case studies about teachers in this program. One example is a teacher on an intern credential who's been an aide for us for a very long time, and she served as a substitute teacher and worked with her principal to try out a bunch of different grade levels and placements to see what it was she felt like was the best fit. And so this year she's in an intern program and able to work full-time, have health care, to be able to pay for her tuition and earn her credential. And this is a teacher that's been with us for a long time and is now on her journey to becoming hopefully a career teacher with us. Another example of teachers that are on limited permits, some of these teachers already have a credential. So we have some teachers that maybe have a special ed credential and moderate support needs, but they're working on their credential for extensive support needs. Or maybe they have a chemistry credential and they're working towards a biology credential. So these are teachers that with this flexibility helps them in their professional growth and also provides us with more flexibility in staffing down the road. So the one thing that we've learned in starting to grow this program is that there's a lot of variety and interesting stories within these teachers, and it's just great to have a systematic way to support them. And then finally, another highlight, I think, of our teacher support programs across the board is the capacity building that we're able to provide to our mentors. Our mentors are experienced teachers in our district looking to take on more leadership roles, and the mentoring training they get, the chance to get out and work across school sites, learn about credentialing, learn about teacher support is really a value add for them in their professional growth and also to all of us in our district. Several mentors have gone on to become administrators or to take on specialist roles or to become a stronger voice at their school site as a teacher. And Tarn here is a great example of that. She was a mentor for a long time and this year has taken on really running the day-to-day aspects of the induction program. So that's all that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now let's look for public comment. I see Stephen Davis.
This was an impressive-looking program to hear about tonight. I hope the district considers some additions and prioritization in some other areas. First, formalize prioritizing helping aides transition into special education teachers and perhaps even other professional areas such as speech and OT, as these are areas of ongoing staffing challenges. Hopefully provide tracking data to the board and the public on the usage of these programs for special education related staff. 2, add a program to support general education teachers getting cross-certified with special education. With more than 10% of students having IEPs, all teachers are special education teachers, and having all teachers formally certified to support our special ed students would be a benefit across the board. 3, work with education training organizations to create expedited special education credentials for teachers, or general ed teachers rather. If we can have an executive MBA in a year, we should be able to have an accelerated program for teachers with appropriate incentives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, any comments or questions?
Just a thank you. Teaching is a hard job. It has gotten harder in recent years. It just seems like a really robust program with a lot of supports, and I'm grateful you're all doing it.
Anyone else? Student board? Yes, Yunso.
I had one question on the chart on the last page of the report comparing with Santa Clara County and statewide with PAUSD. And I was just wondering if I'm interpreting the data correctly. If we have lower cleared for credential values and low intern and low out of field educators, how does that contribute to a higher ineffective percentage? I was just hoping you'd clarify on that deficiency.
Dr. Bickle, before you answer that question, that is the best question I've ever heard from a student board rep. We got a good answer for it, but wow. That was just a 10. I had to acknowledge that. All right, now Dr. Bickle, good luck with that one. Good luck.
Is your question about the totaling to 100%? Is that?
I just thought that in the clear section and the out of field and intern, we had or at least for out of field and intern, we had the lowest percentiles compared to Santa Clara County and statewide, but in the ineffective percentage, we had 5.3, which is the highest value. So I was wondering if you could clarify that.
Yeah, that is part of the reason for this program is to help to make sure that people are moving from this category that has the unfortunate label of ineffective, because that does not really describe the teaching skill of the people in this category. It's a label that includes a lot of those limited permits. So that was part of the reason for this program, was to make sure that if we do have people, and we do have this year a couple teachers that were formerly aides that are now earning their teaching credentials, that they have that support. So I don't have a good answer for why that number is higher than the county, but I can say that that was definitely part of the reason for the program.
Thank you. Any other student board member questions? Well, I want to celebrate and recognize the work of Kelly Bickle and Taryn and PAUSD. Having been a new teacher, I can attest to how valuable and important the induction program is. And what stood out to me is that we, PAUSD, are going above and beyond, especially with the individualized focus on our teachers. And so I do want to thank you because I can still remember the name of my advisor, 2003. Thank you, Susie Darwish, because it made a difference to have one person who you could check in with and ask questions and also make sure you're on track because you're teaching full-time, you are grading full-time, and yet when it's the hardest year, you also have to put together a lot of work and presentations. So I just want to thank you for your work and excellence. Thank you. Oh, and then one question to the staff is in regards to teacher turnover, I would be interested in seeing actually our turnover rates of our tenured teachers and classified staffs, because we talk about our, we have low teacher turnover, but it'd be nice to see this data, and it'd be, so if we could get that, that would be great. So now we will move on, thank you again, to open forum. And yeah, it looks like we have fewer than 10, so everyone will. Oh.
Can I clarify? Can I ask a clarifying question on your question?
Sorry, yes.
Was your request relating to this program, or was it generally?
No, yes, so that question was more to the staff because we talk about teacher turnover and our low teacher turnover, and it would be helpful to see, yes, to actually see the data and have it be presented because I think it would be good for the community to see. Yes, that was not in regards to this staff, but this staff, yes. Thank you for clarifying. So we will have 2 minutes per speaker as we have fewer than 10. So for the first 3, I see Stephen Davis, Guy Pav, and Emily Chen.
I'd like to thank the 3 departing board members. You've all been very generous with your time, meeting with me, and my understanding is with many other people. You have answered many questions, even if sometimes the answer is no. I hope that you will continue to be community leaders and maybe join us here sometime in the cheap seats. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I do also just want to share for people who are coming in now that at 4:30 p.m. we did have an acknowledgement of our outgoing board members. So I just do want to share that we did. Yes. Bye, Paul.
Okay. I would like to echo Mr. Davis's comments. So thank you, Mr. Collins, Dr. DiBrianza, Ms. Lady Morak, for your service for the last several years. Hard to capture that in 2 minutes, but I'm really sorry I could not make it to the earlier session to acknowledge it. I'm even sorry I missed out on the cake. But we don't come to our board members with the easy problems, the ones that most of us can mostly agree upon, and you can just rubber stamp and get on with delivering the awesome stuff we expect from this district. We come to you with the really hard problems that are not in your control. Stanford Cup, pandemic, curriculum changes, mental health of students, staff, and parents. They're not in your control. And no matter what you do or say, you can be, the one thing you can be sure of is that there'll be some important part of a community that will not agree with you, that will feel left out and hurt. And so thank you for doing your utmost to listen, to learn, and to serve. We have been blessed to have you.
Thank you. And I also want to add that typically with an agenda item, I would say this is, we've already discussed this agenda item, but because it's in recognition of our outgoing board members, I am deciding that if you are here for that reason today, that is fine. Now we have Emily Chen, Dylan Robinson, and Aprajit.
Hello, hi board member, hi parents of Palo Alto School District. I'm here to expose some lies that our board member has made to the common public media, including the Mercury News. On Mercury News, September 23rd, they said that Palo Alto Unified says battle over gender-neutral bathroom is a misunderstanding. However, in the emails that I received back in September 11th from Ms. Jessie, it clearly says, first, I want to clarify under the current design of Hoover, students will have the option of choosing between multi-stall gender-neutral restroom as well as single-stall rooms available to all students nearby. Also, not only from Jessie, from Mr. Shanak, it also says students will have options of choosing between single-stall restrooms and multi-stall gender-neutral restrooms only. So it's not a misunderstanding. I do appreciate that you try to listen and communicate with us. However, if you make a mistake, you have to apologize first. Second, there's another lie behind that, because after the communication, I got another email from Jessie and also from Dr. Don Austin to the whole school district that said that the communication between deciding the gender will be between the school and the staff. It will not go back to the board. However, when I went to the principal coffee at September 20th, we were told by Ms. Lana here that the final decision makers are only Don Austin, Lana, and Eric Holmes, the architect. None of the Hoover parents member, not even our principal, were involved in the final decision-making for the bathroom design. So the fact that you're telling people that, yes, this is not a problem, it's okay, we'll take care of it within the community, it's a lie too. So please make your communication more clear, more transparent, and if you make a mistake, it's okay. Everybody makes a mistake. We need to teach the kids that. Please apologize to the Hoover community and the media and the public. Thank you.
We cannot respond to open forum. Dylan Robinson is next.
Hello, my name is Dylan Robinson. I'm a junior at Pally, and I play football and baseball. 10 days ago, I had a neck injury in our football game against Menlo. While I never lost consciousness and I could move my limbs, I couldn't hold my head up or move my head at all. My parents came to the sideline while I laid on the training table in pain, as our trainer told me that Pally did not have a doctor present and she did not have a C-spine immobilizer, but that my dad should go and drive me to the emergency room. My dad called a surgeon that he knew in the opponent's stands, and when he came over and examined me, he suggested that we call 911. The ambulance came and they transported me to Stanford ER, where I was admitted and spent the weekend waiting for CT scans and MRI results. I'm not here to take an issue on how my injury was handled. Since I got out of the hospital, I've done some research and learned that many schools employ qualified medical professionals during these football games. Many schools have C-spine immobilizers, and most importantly, there is a good amount of debate to how serious injuries, especially those involving the spine and neck, should be handled. My dad carrying me to the car himself, as was suggested, would have been a mistake. Immobilizers, from what I have read, are appropriate in some circumstances, but not others. Removing my helmet without proper tools was also probably a mistake. But one thing is clear: how you handle spine-related injuries in the first instance and how fast you respond can ultimately determine the severity of the injury. My request is pretty straightforward. I would like the school board to direct and authorize budget for 3 specific items prior to the Gun and Pally 2025 football season. 1, an independent third-party expert to visit both Pally and Gun to educate the training staff and coaches
I
on
am
the...
so sorry that your time is up, but will you please email board@PAUSD?
So I want to add to that also. Kind of personal, but your dad reached out to me and I did not get back. I want to meet with you and your dad personally. So I want to get that taken care of. I'm just seeing you right now and thinking that he reached out, and I was distracted when I couldn't respond. I was in my car. But I owe him a meeting, and I want to meet with both of you personally. And I've had a neck injury in football. I've been the guy laying on the field. So I want to talk to you personally about this also.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
You'll get that outreach this week.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming here to speak.
Well, we can't.
The board cannot
board is
discuss
unable to
non-agendized
respond.
items.
Okay, yes, the board cannot. Up next, Aprajit, Lisa Ma, and Abraham.
Hi, my name is Aprajit Mahajan. I'm a public school teacher and a gun parent, and I want to use my 2 minutes to make 2 points, both around evidence-based grading. So the first point I'd like to make is just to call attention of the board to the recent simultaneous introduction of EBG in a number of advanced classes for juniors and seniors at gun, and to point to the concomitant significant increase in mental health burden and stress among students who are already in the most stressful portion of their high school careers. This EBG has been introduced in a number of different ways, in a number of different classes. There's a lot of variation in what teachers are doing, and this has led to a significant increase in mental health burdens among students. And that leads me to my second point, which is that I would encourage the board to encourage the school to actually collect evidence on evidence-based grading or its effectiveness. So in particular, I would encourage the board to ask the school to carry out their own surveys to measure the effect of evidence-based grading on students' mental health, on their levels of stress. I think that having spent vast resources on training teachers on EBG, it seems a little remiss to not actually measure what's going on with the students once EBG has been introduced. So my request would really be to ask the board to encourage the school to take that up. I also want to point out that encouraging students to speak up is not going to fly. Students have a strong fear of retaliation, whether that's justified or not. It was impossible for me to get students to come and speak here because they were very worried about teachers who are going to be writing recommendations for them. So I think this idea of student participation is good in principle, but introducing it at this point is not going to give you a reasonable source of information. So anonymous representative surveys, I think, are the only way to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Lisa Ma Wu and Abraham Chen Sao.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ma Wu. My daughter is a 7th grader at Fletcher Middle School. She was assaulted on the head by a student not from her class who ran into the class while it was in session. Her whole class witnessed everything and she is traumatized. The solution is that her seat will be changed and the classroom will now be locked to prevent such occurrences from happening from this student again. I'm here to share my story because this emotional trauma for her and her class will linger for a long time. I want to emphasize that I fully support the inclusion and equity of all students. However, I am very concerned about the safety protocols set in place. Ensuring the safety of all students, teachers, and staff is essential, and this incident raises concerns about how these policies are being managed and monitored. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Abraham, Hiral, and I believe those are our last two commenters.
Hi everyone, my name is Abraham Jinzo. I'm here to first speak our parents' the story. We have recently observed a non-list of sexual and physical assaults reports at the whole school district. We do want the school board or the superintendent to give us more details about what happened and what are the solutions. We want to make sure that the victims of those assaults are protected and make sure that we minimize the possibility of such incidents to happen again. So that's for everybody's safety and well-being of the students. So I think that we only see the list, but we want to see that what are the major procedures and actions that the school board will take to make the situation not better than today. The second comment I want to make is that since this is called open forum, I would expect that this is two-way communication, not one-way. Even though you say you want to be prepared to non-meeting agenda items, but people can also speak if you choose to. I'm not forcing you to speak. If you choose to, especially if some specific names are mentioned or very specific issues are discussed, you can choose to respond. I do not like the policy saying that you are not allowed to respond to open forum items, because there will be ad hoc items that you can choose to respond. It's fine if you do not respond, but that's also a response, right? So the third one I want to say is that I also want to say we have $330 million every year. I want the school board to look at how to make it more efficient, for example, to fund the PI budget every year.
Okay, Thank you so much. And if you have more comments, please email board@pausd.org. And then to close out open forum, we have Haral. Is she on Zoom? Okay, Haral
Yeah.
on Zoom. Sorry.
Hi, guys. Hello. My name is Carol Frack, and I'm a parent of a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and 4-year-old. Two of them are at Hoover and an active member of our community. And I was a member that encouraged discussion around the restroom issue in our community. And, I think we're at a time of a board change, and I would like to put out a call for our entire community as we enter this new chapter in the district to have mutual respect between parents, the principals, the superintendent, and the PTA leadership, particularly PTAC and the board. I personally have felt personally attacked by members of our community because of my decision to speak out about the restrooms. And I think that parents should be able to have productive discussions amongst ourselves on these topics and feel supported and heard. I think we all want the best for children. I am personally not motivated by some sort of political movement or other factors. It's really around supporting our children. And I think creating an environment where we can't have those discussions or holding up there's a member of PTAC that personally has said really negative things about me and the community being more like Trump and other factors because of how we spoke about the bathroom issue. Holding those individuals up as like really wonderful members of our community, I just don't think that's fair. And I hope that we can all have honest discussions about what respect is. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter and hope to be a productive member of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just speak briefly?
Yes.
Hey, just to clarify and make sure we don't spread misinformation. So the Brown Act prevents us, the people sitting here, these 5 people, from talking about non-agendized items. We're not permitted to discuss it by board policy and by state law. So it means if it's not agendized, if it gets raised in open forum, this happens pretty much all the time at local meetings all over the state, that something gets raised and somebody wants to hear about it and the elected officials, they want to hear something back. We are literally not allowed to discuss it in any substantive way. And so Dr. Austin is not covered by the Brown Act, so he can say things that he says, but we 5 people are, and it literally is a violation of state law for us to discuss things in any substantive way, other than, like for instance, Ms. Blattermerrick the other day said, you should file a UCP, which actually I read in the board policy, it said you were supposed to do that. So we're trying really hard. We realize this is frustrating. I think everybody who works in California local government realizes that it's frustrating, both for you and for us. But I just wanted to prevent the misinformation that we were somehow holding back or selective about it. We literally are not allowed to discuss things by law.
We cannot do back and forth at the board meeting. Okay. So now we are moving on to the consent calendar. Can I get a motion on the table?
I move that the consent calendar with the exception of item N. Item N, which is BP 1114.
Okay. So can I get a motion on the table to approve the consent calendar, except item?
I'll second.
Oh, second. Can I get a second? Thank you.
Second.
Okay, many seconds. Then can I get a motion on the table to approve the consent calendar, except item N? Oh, now I need.
Now you say, is there?
Oh, now we need the vote. Okay. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Colleagues.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. So now I will, yes. So now 5N will now be moved to action.
And I pulled this at the request of Vice President Siegel, so it's her item.
Okay. So now the consent calendar has been approved. So now we can move on to. Yes, so now this will be the first action on action. So I can.
And you should speak to it.
Yes, so now I will speak to it, getting the order straight. So I pulled item N. It was discussed and so the item N is board policy BP 114 district-sponsored social media. And this can be found for those following along at home. It is in our board packet, so you could open it. And so I just wanted to highlight for the community that it is a brand new policy. And there was a lot of robust discussion and questions, and some of those included, there were privacy and security concerns, there were questions about official channels versus not official, what is the official site, who can post, what is the district's goal of being on social media. And so I'm calling this out to say we move forward with adopting the policy because we need to have a policy in place with the understanding there's still work to do, include hammering out our AR, which is our administrative regulations. So I was just bringing it here to highlight to the community, brand new board policy. We did move it through. And as social media continues to evolve and as we have new school board members and it will come up before, now I've given an explanation. Okay.
So unless there's further
Unless
discussion,
there's
I
further
move to approve item N as presented.
Second.
Student board preferential.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Colleagues all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. So now we will move to action item, resolution number 2024-2508, PAUSD to enter into an agreement with Public Agency Retirement Services PARS to design. Oh, wait, there was a comment. Oh, I bet there was.
Yeah, you're just opening the item.
Oh, I'm just opening the item. Oh. Oh, I missed the, I should have. Okay.
We can go back in here.
Pause.
We were involved in our motions.
Yeah, there are many motions. Stephen Davis, as I haven't finished my sentence, we can still.
Is this for item N? Is this for?
Actually, have you voted on the consent agenda
It's
yet?
for
I thought
consent.
you've just voted on that one motion.
We voted on.
We voted
consent.
on the,
That was two actions.
We did vote.
Okay, there was,
yeah.
you didn't get to do this, Jesse, so. Okay, my comments on the consent agenda that you passed. Policy comments. The district and school websites should be broadened to include application platforms such as Schoology and Parent Squares, as these are used functionally in lieu of websites and should be subject to the same requirements, notably including accessibility. My daughter, who is not an accessibility expert, has some accessibility concerns. On the student and employee use of technology implementation, it should be clear and there should be really an explicit individual sign-off on acknowledgement that people do not have the presumption of privacy on any of these platforms. Student board members, it is great that the policy has been amended to welcome a student board member from Middle College. All the same logic should apply to our students in post-secondary and other intensive programs. These students deserve a voice in this forum. On classified staff reporting. JLS, I learned about this as a result of being on the site council. JLS lost 2 campus supervisors, I believe, this period. Apparently, this position has a high rate of turnover, and the base funding provided by the district to the sites is insufficient. And this may be my misunderstanding, so that sites have to use some of their own funding to a reserve to increase salaries. In addition to looking more closely at this position category, please provide better data on staff turnover by category, year-over-year data, et cetera, to provide a better sense of where there are weaknesses or just ordinary acceptable turnover rates for our staff. Thank you.
We'll back to 6A, and I'll read the sentence, which is resolution number 2024-2508, PAUSD to enter into an agreement with Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS, to design and administer a voluntary one-time employee separation incentive program for eligible certificated non-management employees, provided there is sufficient employee participation. So I expect a staff presentation.
Okay, I'll be taking that one. We've already pulled B, so we're going to separate that out. We have no agreement to bring forward with CSEA at this time. We do have an agreement with PAEA to bring this forward. The separation agreement's commonly and inaccurately called a retirement incentive. There's no need to retire, but you do have to separate from our school district. Sorry, I knew as soon as I started talking that was going to happen. In this case, it's for PAEA members, which are mostly teachers, but there are some other positions that fall in that space too. It incentivizes the separation from the district as a cost savings measure. It has to pencil out and show a savings to the district. That's one of the requirements. The resolution tonight just allows us to continue that work with PARS. PARS is our third party. PARS is also the group that we've used the last couple times. I don't know how far back, but at least the last couple. This will be my fourth time with PARS personally. PARS has already done an analysis of our workforce and has seen that we have pretty heavily weighted towards the end years in our teaching force, including people that are of eligible age, which is 55 and older. Probably doesn't make sense for most people 55, but we've got quite a few in their 60s that it would make sense for. But again, that's their decision. This authorizes us to continue that work with PAEA, which will also crank up information sessions that are handled by PARS and get people working with their retirement consultants. So I'll stop there and see if we have questions.
Yeah.
Could you just clarify why you're asking for the 2-meeting rule to waive?
Absolutely. The idea here is you want people to start to have conversations with their families over the holiday season. It's a very standard practice. You could actually approve this in the second semester, but we think that's poor practice. Typically, you want to do it early on. Something we discussed with PAEA last year, but the timing wasn't right for either side. But this time it looks much more right. So the idea is this allows us to continue moving forward before the holiday season. There's no other reason for that. That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
I move that we waive the 2-meeting rule on this item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Student preferential
Oh,
vote.
student preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
And now I move that we adopt the resolution and approve the attached service agreement as presented.
Second.
Student board preferential vote.
Aye.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. So moved. And now I just want to acknowledge that there is a comment for 6B, but we have pulled that. So I'm just acknowledging to the community that that's why I'm not calling on comments for that. So now we will move to item C, authorization to apply for Clean Energy Vehicle Credits Program.
Good evening. This is an opportunity for us to apply tax incentives for the electric buses that we purchased last April 2023. we found that we're eligible for some tax credit, and tonight I seek for board approval to apply for this tax credit.
Question.
Yes.
My question is, and I think this is covered in the item, but I want to make sure it's clarified, is you're asking for the waiver of the two-meeting rule on this as well. So could you just clarify quickly?
Yes, because the due date to apply and submit the application is November 15th, so that's why we're requesting to waive the two-meeting rule.
So if you're ready for a motion, I'm prepared to make one.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we waive the two-meeting rule on this item.
I'll second.
Okay, student board?
Aye.
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 Okay, colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
All right, and so now I move that we authorize staff to apply for the credit program as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Board preferential vote?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, great. Moving on to D, approve resolution number 2024-25.10, supporting award of leaseback agreements and authorization of the leaseback entity for the Green Middle School Transformation Project. Eric Holm.
Good evening. So this is just the accepting of our leaseback contractor, which will be Swinnerton. We had a robust application, narrowed it down, did interviews of several applicants. They were all very good, and we chose Swinnerton specifically because of the way we thought their team would fit with the green site. This just only authorizes the initial amount of their pre-construction, which is light since we have a DSA-approved set of $42,000. We will come back with a revision of the contract like we did with the other leaseback we did with Excel for the Hoover project after they get the bids out and get the final results.
Thank you.
No, this is, we,
17 times.
yeah. You guys previously authorized us to do the leaseback, so this is the second.
Are there any public comments?
Okay, are there public comments? I did not see any.
I do have one comment.
Yes.
I'm prepared, I'll make a motion at the end of my comment, but my only comment is that I'm not a big fan of calling things the transformation project because, and we discussed this at proper committee, it does kind of set the bar right up here for what we're expecting, and my guess is that's not what we're getting. So,
We're going to disappoint.
but with that reservation, I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Great. Student board preferential vote?
Aye.
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 Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Great, thank you. And then E, approve resolution 2024-25.07 to increase the contract to Coulter Construction for the Addison Elementary School heating, ventilation, and cooling project.
So this is a rather simple $18,000 change order, but the way we contract it requires us to do a resolution for approval. So this is a unique one. It's a very small change order. It's under 10% as well, but it just had a contractual hitch to it.
Thank you.
If you're ready for a motion?
Yes.
I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
Second. Wait, I have a comment. Well, that's okay, once it's on the table. Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is such a pedantic question, but this is about the limit for informal bidding, right? And the item in front of us is going to go above the statutory limit of 200,000?
Yes.
Okay, but then in discussion item 7B, it says the statutory limit is 220,000?
So because it's that's for items that we're doing this summer, and the law changes in January.
That's, my question was going to be, is this like some weird, we're like caught in time between the legislature? Okay, so we still, so I was going to say, is this unnecessary? But it's not unnecessary because it's before January. This is so dumb. Okay.
So dumb.
Okay. And now, okay, student board preferential.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, great. Now we move on to number 8, information items. We have a,
Oh, 7.
oh, 7.
7A.
Oh,
Discussion.
7A. Oh, sorry. 7A discussion items. But I see Eric is still there, so I should have known I skipped that. Discussion items. 7A to approve an agreement with Finney Architects for design services for playground projects at Barron Park, El Carmelo, and Ohlone Elementary Schools. Woohoo. And landscaping at Palo Verde Elementary and shade structures at Allison Elementary and Fletcher Middle School.
Yes. So that covers everything.
Yes,
That's it.
These are all projects we plan to do this summer.
yes. Great.
Motion to approve.
We don't have to approve, we're just discussing it.
I just have a question. Would you mind, may I?
Yes, this is.
Could you just expand briefly on why normally we would see this in the spring? In fact, if I remember last summers, we saw it pretty late in the spring. So this is quite early for summer projects. Why is that?
Well, so the summer project is going to be the next one. This is the architectural contracts for designing several of our summer projects. So normally we would see these in the fall, but the bidding and all that would be in the spring.
In that case, hold my question for the next one.
Okay. So we can move to 7B, which is authorization to submit to the Division of the State Architect, solicit bids and contract the work for summer 2025 facilities and maintenance projects.
So this is a large list of projects that we plan to do. It also includes maintenance and facilities projects combined. This was a lot of upfront work we did with the sites to sort of nail out or plan out all of our summer work. And to Mr. Collins' question for a second ago, this really is giving us authorization to greenlight a lot of these projects that are essentially routine maintenance projects that normally in the spring we bring you multiple of these one after another on multiple board meetings. And so given that, one, we are ahead of the game, we've been trying to get there, and two, we have less board meetings throughout the year, we felt it pertinent to ask for sort of this whole list right now. And this includes the approval for the revised CUPCA limit of $220,000. That's mostly the playground, some of the playground bids that we will do, and then also the ability to purchase on the CMAS contracts, which again are always routine because they've been bid elsewhere in the state, up to $750,000, and that's going to be to purchase the playgrounds and the shade structures that we're doing.
Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah. This is sort of related. The board limit, is the board limit, okay, so the statute allows 220, but our board limit is 100,000. Is that's by policy?
Correct.
Okay, so this is just to my colleagues who are staying on this board. $100,000 is like, let me back up. The public contracting code doesn't allow flexibility anywhere. And this is one of the places where we are for some reason choosing to be less flexible than the public contracting code allows us to be, which is just mind-numbing to me. So I would just suggest, because we're making them come to us for 100,000 and the public contract code would allow 220. I don't have this, I'm correct about this, right?
That's correct.
So he has to come to us for more permission than we're statutorily required to do with a public school district. And so I'm just saying, no, yes, am I wrong?
Well, the public contract code allows us to bid up to that limit under that model.
Right.
Every
our
board has
policy-
different requirements about how much money the board authorizes staff to approve when we're following those rules.
Right, so, but our limit's 100.
Yes.
And it could be 220. So I'm just saying to my colleagues staying on the board, this might be somewhere you might want to consider giving yourselves a little more flexibility. You may disagree.
Well, no, I don't know if we disagree, but I think there's a clarification. I think the CUPCA limit is for bidding, right? Not for board approval. So it's not like the CUPCA thing doesn't, so most boards in the state, correct me if I'm wrong, the people who have worked at it, most boards in the state approve every single contract. I mean, you'll look at agendas and you'll see long lists of contracts that some of which are individually approved one at a time, not even on consent. So we went sharply away from that. And there have been CBOs at this district during my time in service that thought that was a good policy and that we should implement it. And it was, well, they thought it was thought it was important for accountability for the staff. So the 100,000 is an arbitrary number, but I don't think it's, I mean, the question is, I think the limit is arbitrary. But I do think it is not a bad idea for the board to see contracts from time to time. Because I do think it creates a sense of accountability among the staff and the board that we're like paying attention to the money going out the door.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I feel like I see Mr. Holmes constantly. My only point is that $100,000 doesn't go very far at all. I think Mr. Collins is, I mean, obviously we see a lot of construction contracts, but just something to consider whether it's worth raising a little bit.
Yeah, I don't
Just a
disagree with
little
that
bit
at all.
more
I think, you know, the 100,000 number was probably plucked out of the air 5 or some 10 years ago.
Which means now that's the equivalent of like 40.
Yeah, and so you could, and so yeah, I think that's a good idea to revise it. I think, you know, but I do think seeing contracts from time to time is a healthy part of our oversight responsibility.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for bringing this forward early, because what it also allows is for, you know, nonprofits who want to rent our space, utilize our space during summer, who sometimes find out really late that they can't because there's fire alarms. So I appreciate doing it early and planning this out. And the attachment was so detailed. So I just want to thank you. And for those of you who haven't opened the attachment, it was very thorough and actually very, very helpful and insightful. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I do think, I mean, just to second your emotion, I do think it's often these summer projects kind of come at the end in a rush or in pieces, and it's very difficult to respond to them or even think about them. They're just kind of waved through because we don't have any, you know, we said, no, there's no project. So, or if we even have to question, there's no project. So it's really nice to get it earlier, and we realize that takes a lot of extra effort and organization, so much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we are moving on to 8 information items, and we have a public comment from Stephen Davis.
I'll be very, very, very brief. I'd like to ask the district and board to include a list of all public meetings, such as advisory board meetings, site councils, and other such for the next month in the information items going forward to make it easier for people to find these meetings. They are important. I'm on a site council. I believe that's a public meeting. I will say we have been unburdened by other parents and visitors, but they're actually important. And so just to make it a little easier for people to participate in our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Siegel?
Yes.
I suggest agenda setting take that up.
Okay. We will take that up. Unless there are any other comments, we will move on to board operations. Do we have any committee reports?
Yes, I have a committee report. Should I go ahead? Yeah. The property committee met on November 4th, and attached actually at board docs under committee reports is a short report, like a couple of paragraphs, and a presentation that was delivered by staff that looked at the how all our cumulative bond spending since 1996 has been distributed across the district by things like by grade or by geography, by level of school, which is not something we'd ever really looked at before. We've talked about from time to time, but had never really done the analysis. So it was, and I encourage my colleagues and staff to take a look at it, because I think it's illuminating, and there were some surprises, I think, for the people on the property committee, and I think it's worth looking at. I do think we have a master planning process coming up, and you might expect that this kind of distribution would be included. If you look at our last 2 master plans, however, there was no analysis like this. And if you look at the master plans that the staff actually provided from other districts, if you looked at those over the summer, if you're like me and have nothing to do over the summer, they weren't included in those either. So I think if the board is interested in this kind of analysis and making sure that we're spending money equitably across the district, that they specifically ask for this kind of analysis to be included in the master planning, and they keep it in mind and maybe ask for it to be updated when it gets around to looking at the project plans for a future bond. I mean, the current bond, it's set, all the money's committed, there's nothing to do. But for a future bond, I think it might be worthwhile to say, look how we've spent our money in the past, and are there equitable considerations that we want to keep in mind as we devise projects for the future? So anyway, that report is there for everybody and is my last contribution from the property, my service on the property committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yes.
I think one of the first things Mr. Collins ever taught me when I joined on the property committee was progressive parity. And
I also
That makes me
learned.
think of Melissa Bain Caswell.
Yes. Yes. Do we have any?
Nope, I got nothing.
Okay. Then with that, the meeting is
All
adjourned.
right.
Thank you.
All right.